The City of Cypress welcomes you to our public forum in this discussion about the city's election systems. In this presentation, we will provide the following information: an overview of federal and state legislation related voting rights and protections, an explanation of the California Voting Rights Act, known as the CVRA, an overview of the CVRA violation inquiry the City of Cypress has received, an overview of current and potential voting systems the city is reviewing, a brief review of the city's most recent election history, and provide several ways for residents to share their comments and feedback. The Federal Voting Rights Act of 1965 was landmark legislation that was born out of the civil rights movement of the 1960s. The legislation enforces the 14th and 15th Amendments of the U.S. Constitution that guarantee equal protection under the law and instituted national protections for voting rights. The Act prohibits any state or local government from imposing voting laws that result in discrimination against racial or language minorities. Examples of past voter discrimination include imposing restrictions on an individual's ability to vote, such as the requiring of literacy tests, moral character tests, or poll taxes. In 1985, the Supreme Court ruled that there are 3 conditions that must be met to prove minority voters have had their rights violated. Number 1, the affected minority group is sufficiently large enough to elect a representative of its choice in a specific geographic location. Number 2, that the minority group is politically cohesive and would likely vote similarly. And number 3, the white majority voters vote sufficiently as a bloc to usually defeat the minority group's preferred candidates. The California Voting Rights Act, or CVRA, expands upon the Federal Voting Rights Act. The CVRA provides additional statewide protections for Californians. The most significant being that the CVRA makes it easier for minority groups to prove their votes are being diluted by at-large elections. The CVRA eliminated one of the 3 federal conditions needed to prove voter disenfranchisement: that the affected minority group is sufficiently large enough to elect a representative of its choice in a specific geographic location. This difference between the federal and state law makes it easier for plaintiffs to assert that a violation has taken place and issue a challenge letter or file a lawsuit against local governments. Such challenges typically seek the elimination of an at-large elections system where it is asserted that a voting rights violation has taken place. It is important to note that when plaintiffs are successful, the local agency must initiate the process to transition its election system within 90 days. Since its passage in 2002, CVRA has promoted 2 decades of change in the California election process. In all, 216 school districts, 34 community college districts, 137 cities, 35 water and other special districts, and all county boards of supervisors statewide are now electing representatives by district. Prior to 2002, only 29 of California's 482 cities elected council members by district. In less than 20 years, that number has jumped to more than 160. Many of the jurisdictions noted here transitioned to by-district elections voluntarily, but others have changed after receiving a CVRA challenge notification. In September 2021, Cypress received a challenge letter on behalf of the Southwest Voter Registration Education Project and its members residing in the city of Cypress. The challenge alleges that the city's current at-large election system for city council is racially polarizing and results in the vote dilution specifically of Asian voters. The challenge asserts that the city is in violation of the CVRA. CVRA challenges are complex and difficult to defend. They can also be very expensive to the defendant. When cities lose such challenges, they are responsible for both their own legal expenses and those of the plaintiff. The City of Cypress is currently assessing the merits of the CVRA challenge. To date, the city has not found any merit to the allegation that it is in violation of the law. The City Council is carefully reviewing its current electoral process and is seeking expert advice on next steps. This includes an initial demographic study of the city's population, past election history, and willingness to defend against a challenge. The city is also seeking community input through these public forums. Furthermore, in many cases, cities that have not changed the election process voluntarily faced formal lawsuits that changed the election process involuntarily and without community input. All of these elements are being reviewed and weighed as part of the deliberative process. The decision the City Council must make is whether to remain in an at-large election system or transition to a by-district election system. The City of Cypress currently utilizes the at-large election process. What are at-large elections? In an at-large election, candidates campaign for elections citywide. All Cypress voters elect all the council members. For example, if 3 council seats are up for election, Cypress voters select 3 candidates. Candidates may live anywhere in Cypress. Candidates who are elected represent the entire city. It is important to note that at-large election systems are typically the trigger for a CVRA challenge. Alternatively, if Cypress holds district elections, the city may be equally divided by population into city council districts. Voters will no longer be able to vote for all of the seats on the city council, as occurs with the current at-large election system. Instead, they will only be able to vote for the seat that represents their particular district. In addition, candidates must live in the district which they hope to represent. Candidates run and campaign in the district where they live, not citywide. District voters choose one candidate to represent them. For example, if 3 council seats are up for election, voters select one candidate to represent their district. Voters in other districts would do likewise. Because not all districts are up for election at the same time, there may be some years where cities do not have a city council election. There are several different types of district elections, and as previously noted, single-member district elections are the most common. Voters in a district elect a single candidate to represent them. Other examples include the Orange Unified School District, which utilizes an at-large, by-district process. All voters may vote for all open seats on the ballot regardless of trustee area. However, candidates must live in the trustee area they hope to represent. Another example, cumulative voting, means voters may cast as many votes as there are seats up for the election. For example, if 3 seats are up for the election, a voter may cast all 3 votes for a single candidate or distribute those 3 votes among multiple candidates. The candidates with the highest cumulative number of votes are elected. Should the city decide to change its current process, there are many district options to review. In the months to come, the City Council must determine whether it wishes to defend or accept the challenge. In either case, the City of Cypress will seek public input and feedback from the community. It is important to the Council that community voices are heard. This community input will include a robust community outreach effort, multiple public forums, and online information. Following this public input process, the City Council will begin their formal deliberations, which will include public hearings as part of regular City Council or special meetings, final deliberations, and a vote by the City Council at a regular or special meeting. The City of Cypress is not alone in this issue. As noted previously, many cities have changed their voting systems in the past 2 decades. Many others have opted to defend against CVRA challenges, but the cost can be high. To date, Santa Monica has spent more than $10 million in legal fees defending against their CVRA challenge. If they are unsuccessful, they will also be responsible for the plaintiff's legal fees by CVRA mandate. Based on the initial assessment by the demographer, it has not been established that Cypress is in violation of the CVRA. This is not unusual. Many cities have faced similar issues. The demographer examined the city's demographics and all city council elections from 2012 to 2020. In the initial assessment, the demographer noted that There are few precincts to analyze, from a maximum of 63 to a low of 36. That previous elections all involve voters with multiple votes and many candidates. And that there are no homogeneous Asian voter precincts. The maximum precinct has only 35.5% Asian voters. This means the estimates are not reliable and require further study and more data. As part of the deliberative process, the City Council will discuss the matter fully. Next steps may include a more detailed and in-depth demographic analysis. However, even when inconclusive, cities are presumed to be in violation unless they can prove otherwise. As previously shown, the cost to defend and possibly lose a CVRA challenge are very high, often running in the millions of dollars. According to the most recent 2020 census data, Cypress is a diverse community with a total population of 50,151. As shown by our current demographics, the Cypress community is comprised of primarily whites, Asian Pacific Islanders, and Latinos. The following Cypress election history underscores the complexities of the issue. The city's CVRA challenge specifically referenced Asian voters and the possibility of racially polarized voting and/or vote dilution for this protected class. Using historical election data, a demographer conducted an initial study to ascertain if a violation had occurred relative to Asian voters. In Cypress's case, the data is unclear. For example, in the 2020 and 2018 elections, candidates who won were favored by voters overall, including Asian voters in at least one instance. However, in each of these years, there was also one other candidate who was preferred by Asian voters who was not elected. Because not all candidates preferred by Asian voters lost, the results are deemed inconclusive. If Cypress chooses to move to district elections, the city is committed to an open and transparent process. A public process would begin to draw the maps outlining each district. Map drawing tools would be available online for anyone to create a map for consideration. Public meetings would be held to explain the guidelines and principles for drawing a map. Maps can also be created during these public meetings. With public input, similar maps may be combined. Typically, 3 or 4 final maps may emerge for public comment and council deliberation. Several key principles are used in the districting process. Districts must include communities of interest, be compact, be contiguous, have visible natural or man-made boundaries, include respect for past voter selections, and plan for future growth. CVRA challenges may impose additional considerations during the districting process. When a CVRA challenge is issued asserting minority dilution, that population will be taken into special consideration when districts are created. When possible, a majority, minority, or plurality district will be created to ensure those voters' preferences are not diluted. It is not always possible to craft such a district if, for example, the minority group is dispersed throughout the city. So, what are the characteristics of the at-large election system? First, all voters vote on all available city council seats. City council candidates can live in any part of the city. And the elected city council members represent the entire city and answer to all city voters. Alternatively, in a by-district election system, voters elect a single district representative. Candidates must live in the district they are running to represent, and the elected city council members represent their local district on the city council and answer to their district voters. The city is very interested in hearing from the community during this public outreach period. To submit a comment or question, you may do so during the public forums. You may also submit a question online to the city email address cvraforum@cypressca.org. In addition, the city has created an online survey, and you may visit the city's website to participate. This is an important and momentous decision for our city, and it is only through the participation of all Cypress residents that our City Council can make an informed and judicious decision as we plan for our municipal future. You can learn more at www.cypressca.org/election system. This is an important and momentous decision for our city, and it is only through the participation of all Cypress residents that our City Council can make an informed and judicious decision as we plan for our municipal future. You can learn more at www.cypressca.org/election system.